Hi, I'm Lindsay.
Hi, I'm Christy, and we work with Globe International.
Working with missionaries, we hear stories of the struggles, the humor, God's goodness, and a little side of crazy.
Hey, that's who we are.
This is Crazy Missionary Stories.
Welcome back to Crazy Missionary Stories. Today we have Marion and Geof Gunton with us from Australia, and they have been in ministry for 38 years. And Geof and Marion, would you share with us what you're doing right now in ministry?
So at the moment, we are serving as part of the executive team of Simply Mobilizing. And so we're really focusing on our teams around the world and helping to encourage them and joining them in the regional conferences and just having a wonderful time of just being witnesses to what God is doing around the world in mobilizing churches.
It's awesome. It's awesome. So Simply Mobilizing, ministering around the world in churches. I met you for the first time in Mexico.
In Mexico,
I believe it was.
Guadalajara.
And you have this amazing cookie that you share with all of these Simply Mobilizing team. And it's called Tim Tam. I'm going to pull it up here. It's called Tim Tam. And Tim Tams are from Australia.
That's correct, yes.
And you said this is called the Tim Tam Slam.
Yes.
Will you show all of our viewers and Greg and I how to do this, the Tim Tam Slam?
Right out. Well, these Tim Tams are a really special Australian delicacy. They are an Australian cookie, and they really, really are wonderful. So the Tim Tam Slam involves 3 steps. First of all, we bite the opposite corners. Then we use the Tim Tam as a straw to suck coffee, chocolate, or tea. It's got to be hot. We suck it through. And then the third most important step, and the one that sometimes goes horribly wrong, is to just put it on your tongue, put the whole cookie on your tongue and just allow it to melt. So that's how it goes. So step 1, bite. It's just small bites. Now, second step is to suck, and the third step is to put it on your tongue. So.
Can you talk to us?
I think that's a little piece of heaven.
Oh, it is. It's just to get that sensation. I don't know if I had omitted, but I should have said that as soon as the coffee gets to your tongue, that's when you put it on your tongue. But it just melts, and to have that sensation of melting chocolate over the tongue.
I have to say, I never actually got the coffee all the way through it, but I knew it was on the way not to lose the cookie.
That you should have told me about the getting it all on there at once there. Yeah, I messed it up a little bit, but did pretty good.
It just takes the enjoyment of this cookie to another level.
Yes. Wow.
Melting over your tongue.
What a great experience.
Yeah. This experience I had for the first time, I don't know if it was in Guadalajara or if it was in Costa Rica, but it was through Simply Mobilizing and the Kairos course. Guadalajara, you guys took a whole I remember. It was quite the experience. So how did you guys, I'm just curious, how did you first get involved in missions, just in general?
Yep. So we've got similar stories, but very different. For me, I was at university, and I went to a university students conference during our Christmas break, our summer break, and it was at that conference that Elizabeth Elliot was one of the speakers, and so she really played a very key role in just being the catalyst and the stimulus to have me thinking outside of Australia and thinking of other parts of the world. And the miracle about that conference was that we were assigned to groups of 10. There's about 10 students to two mature people, and And it just happened that the group that I was assigned to, everyone else was part-time, and I was the only full-time one. And so our numbers varied. I think we might have had 8 on one occasion, and then another time a smaller number. And there was at least one occasion where I was the only one, and just being able to sit with Elizabeth Elliot and to be able to hear her wisdom and the experience and to talk about her journey with God was just it started me thinking in a completely different direction.
It's incredible. So from there, you got involved in missions.
Yes, it took another couple of years before I went to Papua New Guinea, but I did go to Papua New Guinea. I went to Papua New Guinea convinced that God's leading was to South America, and but just knowing it was God's time, God was taking me to Papua New Guinea for a reason, and I was using my financial background that I'd picked up from university, and as a new graduate, being able to apply that to the church and mission context in Papua New Guinea. But I knew that God had taken me there to be involved with young people and in investing in the lives of young people.
Well, my interest really started way back when I was about 11. And I was part of a group called Christian Endeavour. Don't know whether they had it over here in America. But the lady who ran it was a missionary. She was a missionary in Borneo, back in that time when that was called Borneo, which is East Malaysia. And she, of course, there was a big, strong focus on the mission side of things as well. But it was really a discipleship program for people of all ages. But this one was for us young ones. And that was really where my real strong interest became in mission. And she was a very key part of that, because she started praying for me way back then. Wow. She really sensed that that God was going to lead me into that. And so it took a few years before God really got a hold of me in a full capacity. And I said to God, you know, anywhere, anything, I'll go, you know, whenever. And so, of course, when I really felt that strong call that, okay, it's time, then I went to Bible college. And then after Bible college, I thought, when I'm finished, I'll know where I'm going and who I'm joining, you know, what mission group to join. But that didn't happen. Mm-hmm. I mean, I had all these people speaking about their mission and what they do, and I still didn't have any idea. So I went back home, got involved in the church, and it was during that time that a representative of what was called Gospel Recordings came along and spoke about the work of recording the gospel in people's languages, heart languages, and I felt like, oh, that's a good ministry, and a practical type of ministry, practical type of person. Sorry. And the representative offered me their books that they had telling the story, and so I took them, and I thought, I don't know when I'm going to read these, but he took me to East Malaysia with that missionary lady when she returned on one of her trips, and I was like her companion. And I was 23 when I went. Yeah, when I first left Australia, I was 23. So, and that was a short-term trip. But it really impacted me, and it was a really good start, an introduction to being in another culture in that way. And so I got to read those books, and when I came back, I really felt God's leading towards that mission and being involved in that ministry. And yeah, so it started in 1987.
That's incredible. Yeah. So I forgot, sorry, Greg, but I forgot to introduce you to everyone.
Oh, sure.
Yes, before
well, good.
On this, but Lindsay is not with us today. Instead, is
It's Greg. I'm not near as pretty as Lindsay, right? Yeah. Yeah. So no, it's an honor to be here, and yeah. So thanks for having me. Yeah, big privilege. Yeah. You were mentioning about going to Bible college, and before you went to the mission field. I went to Bible college too. I'm just wondering, I have my feelings on it, but what do you think? Do you think that you have to go to Bible college to be a missionary? What do you guys think?
I'll say my thing first because he did it the wrong way. No, he did it a different way around. No, well, I really felt it was going to be helpful for me to go to Bible college. And of course, it is encouraged, and mission groups do encourage you to do that. But I think it helps to prepare you for living in different situations. And I lived in my Bible college. And so having to learn to live with other people from different denominations and some different countries as well. We had some out of the country people. You know, so, and of course then you're learning more about God's Word. And there's so many aspects of Bible college that I think stand you in good stead. So even though I wouldn't go as far as to say you can't be a missionary without going to Bible college. I wouldn't say that because I know in history there's been a lot that have done that. God can use anybody. But I think it is a very positive thing to do to be able to help prepare you.
I think for me it was very, very different. I didn't do formal Bible college until after I had been on the mission field for 10 years. But I had done part-time Bible study before going to the mission field. On the mission field, I did a certificate of theology, so I was learning. And for most of my life, I've just had a desire to understand the Word more. So we got married. We had 10 years as singles in our respective organisations before we married, and that's when I did 3 years of Bible college. I chose to do a degree, and I loved the time at Bible college. I really appreciated it. I learned a lot, but I think if I was to do that stage of life again, I would choose to do a diploma and really get into the Word of God and not so much focus on the expectations that was required for a degree and the interaction with higher critics that we needed to do. I didn't find that necessarily helpful. It was a necessary part of the study, but it became a very, very academic exercise. And the Bible is all about how does it impact our life? How do we allow the Bible to speak to us? How do we allow God to speak to us through the Bible? And you know, if you can learn other ways of being able to really grow in your understanding of God and relating with God, then Bible college is a extra blessing to help, but it's not necessarily an essential.
Yeah, very good answer.
Well, I'm curious to hear about what missions look like for you when you first got started. What have you been able to do in missions? Now I know you're on the mobilizing side, but you weren't always, I imagine.
No, that's right. And yeah, in Papua New Guinea, I was very much fitting into a non-traditional role, a non-traditional missionary role, but in a fairly traditional sort of missionary environment, missionary setting. And I think for me, it was the start of my last year at university that I was challenged by Helen Roseveare to not just commit ourselves to being a missionary if God wanted us to be, but to actually take active steps to be a missionary unless God showed us otherwise. So following that commitment, I was returning to Brisbane, my home city, and just really was ready to just go to Bible college and not worry about my last year of my degree. And and it was our youth leader who actually challenged me, and she said, "Geof, have you seriously prayed about this?" And as I prayed, I just sensed God saying, "Continue that which you have begun." And so I completed that year, and by the end of that year, I suddenly became aware that mission agencies were needing people with financial backgrounds, accountants, on the mission field. So I went as an accountant, knowing that God's calling was to youth ministry in Papua New Guinea for that season of my life. So it was quite a traditional sort of environment, but in a role that I hadn't expected, that God was actually going to use my background and experience, my qualification in finance on the mission field. And in the end, I found out it was a blessing that I hadn't worked in an accounting office before going to the mission field, so that I was open to just recognizing the challenges that our bookkeepers and accounting staff faced, and I didn't try to keep with standard what we regarded as standard accounting practices, but rather bringing the systems down to a level that was simplified. So that really was a very non-traditional role, but it was exciting just to be part of seeing God at work in the lives of those that I interacted with, and just being part of their journey. And one of my closest friends I'm still in contact with, I had the opportunity of leading him to the Lord, and we are still in contact. He's now a deputy principal at a technical college in Papua New Guinea, and it's just great to see the way that he's living his life for the Lord, and it's great just that we've had that long association.
Well, for me, it was very different. He tended to go to one country and stayed there. Well, God had me going around different parts of the world. So in joining Gospel Recordings, which is now called Global Recordings Network, they trained me to be a recordist. And so that meant I was the technician behind the machine, setting up microphones, that sort of thing. And usually this was done out in the bush. Wow. So it wasn't people coming into a studio where things are all set up and you just press buttons and go. So we went out into the bush where the people were, and we sat down with them and ready, go, that sort of thing.
Wow, and they read it?
And they either read or they just spoke. Wow. So sometimes they read, worked with the missionaries who were there or the local church. They organised what they wanted recorded, and it was all to do with presenting the gospel to people in their own hut language. Recorded songs, that sort of thing. So very different to the traditional mission side of work.
So Papua New Guinea and all over the world.
So Papua New Guinea, I went to Southeast Asia, did a bit of work in Sabah, Sarawak, and over into West Africa, to Niger, to Burkina Faso, Ghana, down in South Africa, mostly. I think that's all. Wow. But yeah, so.
A real world traveller.
Now, from there, where did you go? So
Yep.
That was the beginning.
That was the beginning. And and so once we got married and started a family, then that really started us taking the focus off our single ministries, our single focus, and on phasing out of those roles. And then we started focusing on South America. We went first to Bolivia. We had 2.5 years in Bolivia, primarily learning Spanish, and then we eventually ended up in Venezuela, recognizing that when we got to Venezuela, we thought we had learnt Spanish, but we realized we needed to start our language learning again. And,
we all get that.
Mm-hmm. So we had 2 years in Venezuela, during that time, I was introduced to Simply Mobilizing, and when we returned to Australia, then as we returned to Australia, I said to Marion, I believe that God's giving us a period of stability where we can give the kids some stability. Up to that point, our kids had never lived anywhere more than 2 years, and at that stage, our son was 9, our daughter was 10, and it just there was particularly our son was showing signs that he needed to just have a few years in one place, and so we then decided that we would be very non-traditional missionaries. We sensed God's leading was still to Latin America, and so we decided that we would embark a new season where we would remain at home, and I would make regular trips back to Latin America. So we did that for a decade, and I couldn't have done those trips to this part of the world had it not been for Marion and our two children, and the way that they knew that they were a part of this season. And so they were aware, when we get home and we talk about names, they're aware of the names, and on a couple of occasions, our children were able to join me on a trip, for different occasions, and that just became really special when they started connecting and realising what God was doing in that part of the world.
That's good.
So that really was a 16 years of focus on ministry as a family, focusing on Latin America.
It's incredible. And that season kind of wrapped up. You closed that season. When was that? What?
Right, we closed that season. God closed that season in the middle of 2019. We were together in Guadalajara, and from there, Marion and I and our daughter Sagana went to Mexico City, and that was the last. That was where we said goodbye to our Latino leaders. It's where we said goodbye to Latin America. Really not knowing whether God would bring us back, but knowing that God was opening a new season that was to be a focus on the whole world.
That's incredible. And I remember that was a summit that Simply Mobilizing had at that point in Guadalajara.
Mexico National Conference.
I was not there, but you had actually visited me. I was in Mexico and visited, and so, yeah, awesome. And just how God moves us around, puts us all together.
It really was neat. And I remember it really just impressed me that time. Like, I didn't know all the history. I knew that you had traveled to Latin America, and I knew that, boy, when they said, when Geof comes, it's work, 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 work. That guy doesn't sleep. Incredible. And I was like, oh my goodness, okay, this is going to be crazy. But I was really impressed with what I believe both of you were there at that conference. And I remember the nationals, the Mexicans, just really thanking you. The whole group, the Latinos, and the stories that came out, and it was very evident to me in the way that they expressed it, that they recognized that it was an effort. It was your whole family that was involved, having traveled there and knowing that she was as much a part of the ministry. And that really impressed me, that the way that you did it. And I saw the leaders, and I was influenced by those leaders, because one of those leaders is who was over us in Costa Rica as we were starting the Simply Mobilizing in Costa Rica. And so to see the quality of these leaders and what they were doing in the ministry, and you were just kind of coming out at that time, it was just really impactful for me personally. That clearly the Lord had used you as a whole family to impact the Latino world in mobilization. So yeah, what a privilege to have been there during that time. And so from then, that was just a transition for you. Now you are over what? So you're not just Latin America now.
So
You're over the world?
Our focus is the whole world. So Marion and I are serving as part of the executive team for Simply Mobilizing International, and my official role is Associate Director. But I couldn't do that role if it wasn't for Marion. We do that, we fulfill that role together. And Marion's official role is International Translations Coordinator. She couldn't do it without me, and so we work together in both our roles. And it's just God has taken us on an amazing journey, and it's just great to just be serving the whole world in different ways.
Share with us what exactly is Simply Mobilizing. What do you do? I know Greg and I have taken the Kairos course. We know the unfinished story, and maybe some of the people that are listening to this will know, but maybe many won't have any idea what that means. Could you explain what that is, what you do?
Yep. So in Simply Mobilizing, we're seeking to focus on mobilization. Now, mobilization might be an unfamiliar word, but it's about helping individuals to understand God's heart to see all of us involved in His mission, and so it's encouraging. It's walking alongside people. It's helping people to take steps of obedience and following God and taking another step and another step. And that's what mobilization is. And so in Simply Mobilizing, we really believe that God has positioned us to be able to help whole churches understand what it is to be on mission with God and to be making a difference in their own communities, in their workplaces, schools, neighbourhoods, in their families, raising the next generation of leaders in their own family, of discipling the next generation, evangelism and discipleship within neighbourhoods, within our church, and also recognising there's unreached peoples in our own cities and in other parts of the world. And so in Simply Mobilizing, we're really encapsulating that God not just has a mission for the church, but He actually has put the church here on earth for His mission, to be doing what He wants to be doing in this world. And so we've got the amazing opportunity of just being able to help churches grasp this and think about how they apply it in their context. And so that's really what mobilization is about.
We mentioned earlier about going to Bible college, and just a quick testimony. I went 4 years to Bible college, and I took Simply Mobilizing, the course. I took Kairos, and there's another one called The Unfinished Story. I want to say these courses, it's like a training, it's like a mini Bible college. They're just awesome, and I'm not saying that it replaces Bible college, but it's a really, I mean, it made as much impact on me as going to Bible college, if not more, and especially the unreached people groups aspect. And so the courses are just awesome that you guys are representing, and thank you for just heading that up. And
yeah, in terms of the courses, it's the material, the content is really important. It's fantastic stuff that we're learning, but it's not just about trying to get this head knowledge. It's all about what is God saying to each one of us as we hear a video, as we read something. What is it that God wants us to be doing? What is a step that we should be taking? And it's it's all about following God, taking next steps, the next step, the next step. And when you look back, we can always look back and see, God has truly led us in an amazing way. And it's just, it's been, we very much, we finished in 2019 in Latin America after, that was 16 years focused on Latin America, but 10 years of that was Simply Mobilizing. We look at what God has done since then, and He's done so much more even since then, because we left at the right time and we left the region in the hands of competent Latinos. And and they have gone on to take Simply Mobilizing not just to 11 countries is how we left it, but there's now 23, 24 countries are the focus of the Latin American team, and they've also started to grow a team in Equatorial Guinea in Africa, and helping the West African region there. It's just great to see what God is doing in and through them.
So if somebody's interested in Simply Mobilizing, then they can go to simplymobilizing.com, right?
Yep, simplymobilizing.com. That's Simply Mobilizing with a Z, .com. With a Z, sorry, with a Z.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for joining us for part 1 of Geof and Marion Gunton. Join us next week for the continuation of their crazy missionary stories.
Thank you guys so much for listening to Crazy Missionary Stories. If you are listening on Spotify, don't forget to follow us and give us a 5-star review. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe, and of course, share it with your friends. Thank you guys for listening. See you next time.